This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is the Handicappers Report.
Good morning and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Handicappers Report. Seth Merrill sitting in for Anthony Mormino. He'll be in for me tomorrow, but on the other side of the desk, regular Wednesday handicapper Brian Edo. Good morning, Brian.
Hey, Seth, good morning. It's a little chilly out there. I think Saratoga is firmly and unfortunately in our rearview mirror.
And it's only like 2 weeks, but it seems like so long ago.
It does. It seems like months ago. And I was doing the Belmont card on Monday, and I said, boy, 2 weeks ago today we shut down Saratoga. And you're right, it seems like it's been a distant.
And it's that way
memory.
every year.
Yeah,
it zips along. And again this morning, I said yesterday when I came in, I ran into a lot of fog, and it's kind of that time of year. And a little chilly when you get out there. I had the heater on actually for a little bit. I talked to Tony Kalo from Finger Lakes yesterday.
Right.
He said, "Man up! It's still September."
I can see Tony saying that. Yeah, Tony was probably in a T-shirt and maybe shorts as he was talking to you. I could see Tony saying that.
He said he's a California guy and he hasn't had the heat on yet. But I didn't turn on the house yet, but I had it on the car a couple of times so far. But fall means some good racing, and we'll talk about some of the Wednesday racing today. I'm going to take a look at Delaware. Brian's going to take a look at Belmont kicking off their week. We also have some nice racing on the weekend, and I want to get some of your opinions on the Cotillion and the Pennsylvania Derby. Before that, though, the big news from the past 24 hours, it looks like one of the historic racetracks in North America will be no more. The decision finally came down yesterday from the commission that was deciding where the Boston area casino went, and it didn't go Suffolk Downs way. And so essentially the Suffolk Downs folks came out and said what they've hinted at, not even hinted at, what they've essentially said. Without a casino, racing will end there. And it looks like, I think racing goes into early October this year, and that looks like it will be it, unless some kind of silver night comes, which I suppose is possible, but unlikely, very unlikely. So it looks like Suffolk Downs, which has been around for years and years, had a number of historic events, including a Beatles concert there at one point in the mid-'60s. It looks like things are going to wind down in only a few more weeks of racing at Suffolk. I have some of the articles linked on Equidaily. I have also some local television news coverage where they interviewed neighbors and folks at the racetrack. It's sad. I must say I have never been to Suffolk Downs. I got to Rockingham once. I was at the Northampton Fair for Zippy Chippy's last race.
I was there too, I think. Very fun place.
And so that was fun. I may have to get out, though, and before Suffolk closes, get a shot. But have you ever been?
I saw Radiohead at Suffolk Downs, but I did not see horses. But you used the word sad, and I think it's fitting. We saw Beulah close down, or the Ohio track closed down earlier this year, and now Suffolk. And like you mentioned, Suffolk's got some history, and the Beatles you mentioned, but the Mass Cap was when I was coming up in this game was a staple. Yeah. And Cigar and Skip Away, I mean, to two of the many superstars that ran in the Mass Cap. And if you're not, if you're just getting into the game or you don't really remember, the Mass Cap was a serious race back in the day with a $500,000 to $1 million purse, I believe. And like I said, Skip Away and Cigar are the two most prominent names that come to mind in my racing lifetime. And it is sad. It's outside of Boston, just outside of Boston, in a major market, and to lose Suffolk Downs is I think sad is the right word, Seth. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, and when the Mass Cap started to fade into oblivion, that's when you knew things weren't going well for the track. And boy, I think I read something to the effect of at one point there was something like 17 tracks. Maybe it was in New England in general. I was going to say in Massachusetts, but one of the articles I read within the past day or so, there was something like 17 tracks, and now I had 2 or 3 tops. And really there's only one left in Massachusetts, and that's a trotter track. If Suffolk does wind up closing, and again, that certainly is the folks up at the top level are saying that's going to be the case. And so, it changes the landscape again. Yeah, Beulah went out. Beulah actually kind of moved. They took their license and went to someplace where they thought the casino would do better. So Beulah closed. Hollywood Park, of course, was the big closure over the past year or so, but now Suffolk Downs being added. That said, I hated to see Hollywood go. I hate to see Suffolk go. But in the overall health of the industry, who knows? Maybe it's a good thing, the contraction, because there have been a number of new tracks that are tied into slots, and I don't know whether the horse population is there to support that many tracks.
Yeah, it's the old addition by subtraction. I don't think anybody around says we don't have enough racing. There's too much racing. I don't think there's any doubt about that, but it's unfortunate when some storied historic tracks go by the wayside. That's not necessarily why or how we want to get better or less racing around the country. But there's no doubt that, the addition by subtraction is probably going to help. I don't know if it's going to help the overall product. It just might spread around the wealth a little bit more as, some tracks maybe come to the fore a little bit and their handle builds a little bit with some, this Hollywood Park is obviously at first and foremost. Without Hollywood Park. We've seen Del Mar now will run a late fall meet, and obviously Los Alamitos race course has now come to the fore a little bit and had some big races. So, what other people are gaining from, the Hollywood Parks of the world closing down, unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll see what happens as far as Suffolk, but it looks like things are done there. And as I said, they have a few more weeks of racing. If you want to get up, it's not a bad drive, obviously. Get on the Pike and head up there. And I may have to, as I say, make a stop there just so I can check that off, get up to Suffolk before they close things up. As noted at the top, do want to get some of your opinions. I like the fact Parks gets a head start. They draw for the weekend on Monday, the two big stakes races. The Cotillion, and you and I were talking before. I hadn't seen this yet. You mentioned that Todd Pletcher may be a little iffy about stop charging Maria in there. That's unfortunate because I said yesterday, how often do we get to see it? But you love it. At some point in the year where the three main contenders in a division will face off, and it was going to be Untappable, Stop Charging Maria, and Sweet Reason. Even with Untappable and Sweet Reason, it still becomes very, very intriguing. Sweet Reason coming off of 2 Grade 1 wins, the Acorn and the Test. The distance will be a question mark. Untappable coming off the 5th place finish in the Haskell, so her moving back in against the Phillies makes it intriguing. Mike Rapoli, I tipped my hat to him because I was standing in the winner's circle after the Alabama, and he said right then, we're headed to the Cotillion. So unfortunate if that one doesn't go, but it's still shaping up to, I think, be a really nice showdown between at least a couple of the top contenders in the division. Yeah,
and you've got to give Parks a lot of credit. You've probably linked it on Equidaily. Dick Girardi's done a couple nice articles on the kind of the history and the story behind the Cotillion and the Pennsylvania Derby, which are both $1 million races. And you mentioned the slot money, and then you're seeing it right here in front of you. The Cotillion is really good, and it's not just all about Untappable. If you haven't seen Cassett run, who's going to break from the rail for Larry Jones, and Fox Hill, Rick Porter's Fox Hill Farm, she's full of talent. You mentioned Sweet Reason. House Rules is coming up from Saratoga for Jimmy Jerkins off a monster win up here, joint return. You look down this list, JoJo Warrior comes in for Baffert. And, of course, Stop Charging Maria. And I did read in the Daily Racing Form that Todd said he's likely to pass and run in the Beldame, which is unfortunate because I mentioned off the air to Seth, I'm not really sure if Stop Charging Maria can wrestle a championship away from Untappable without beating her. As good as she is right now off the coaching club in Alabama, the Alabama was historically slow. It was against a modest field. Untappable's running figures better than California Chrome or the best 3-year-olds. So I think it's going to be tough to wrestle a championship away from her. It would be really neat if she shows up. But like Seth mentioned, if she doesn't, Sweet Reason is a 3-time Grade 1 winner, albeit around one turn. There's a lot of different ways to go in the Cotillion. And I think we'll talk about California Chrome in a second, but I think the same applies to him as what I'm going to say about Untappable. She's going to have to earn it on Saturday. They're not giving her $1 million or a Grade 1. She's going to have to run a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to be an intriguing race. And yeah, one race later on the card is the Grade 2 $1 million Pennsylvania Derby. 9 furlongs the trip. California Chrome drew the rail. That's where everybody is going to be paying attention to. See what the comeback effort is like after the 4th place finish. And I said yesterday, may also answer some questions. Was the gash a legitimate excuse? Right after the race, it seemed like Art Sherman maybe didn't point to that, but about a week later, he seemed maybe to feel a little more positive that that gash did take a little something, and it was only a 4th place finish. And if you remember, 4th place by less than a couple of lengths. And if you remember, mid-stretch, California Chrome was right there in the mix and had a shot. And so we were all disappointed, and I think we maybe looked at this as a worse effort than it was because we lost the chance at a Triple Crown. And certainly coming to the wire, you knew that wasn't going to happen. But I think California Chrome working very well out at Los Alamitos for Art Sherman. Interesting. Did draw the rail, however. You and I were talking before the show. Protonico, I found very interesting. Came out of the near third place finish in the Curlin up at Saratoga. VE Day comes out of that and subsequently wins the Travers. Botanico comes out of that and subsequently wins the Smarty Jones, which is the prep down at Parks for this race. Bayern worked nicely out in Southern California, and Bob Baffert decides to come east. Noble Moon, lightly raced, has shown a couple of races that predicted some potential. I find that one a little bit interesting. And Tapiture, a horse I liked a lot earlier this year, tosses in the dud in the Kentucky Derby, but now a couple of lower-level 3-year-old stakes race wins, so sets this one up to maybe at least take a shot in here. Another field that I find really intriguing.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen the Smarty Jones, go back and watch it, because Protonico was really impressive. He would have won by open lengths that day. He didn't get a good trip at all. He is definitely on the come in here, and he's a wild card for me, and I'm going to play him a little bit. And, you know, we're all gamblers here, and this is the Handicappers Report. So this is a race that you really might want to take a deep look at because, you know, as good as California Chrome is, and I don't want to badmouth a dual classic winner, he's not very fast, okay? He's not running huge figures. You know, he was fortunate to win the Derby in a very, very slow time. And now he hasn't run since June. So if you're looking to beat this horse, and he's probably going to be every bit of 1 to 2 on the board, he might be 1 to 5 in this race, meaning everybody else in here is going to be a big, big overlaid price. You know, you're allowed to look around and shop for better value, which you're going to get in spades on any of these horses. Any horse that might be 4 to 1 is probably going to be 8 to 1 in here and onward and upward because of the heavy tote action California Chrome's going to take. He's going to break from the rail. That's no guarantee. He's off a June 7th layoff. The one thing I do want to mention, Seth, is that, you know, normally in the perfect world, this would be a prep for the Breeders' Cup Classic, and it is, obviously, but, you know, Shared Belief has announced his presence on the West Coast, and I don't know if Art Sherman and the California Chrome people can use this race as a prep and say, well, we ran third, it's a means to an end. I don't think they can do that because Shared Belief, if he hasn't knocked down the door already, he's right there, and he's a better horse than California Chrome, and I think people are starting to realize that, and he's building a pretty serious resume now too. I don't think they can go to the Breeders' Cup Classic off a third-place finish in the Pennsylvania Derby. I think the screws have to be pretty tight here, my personal opinion.
If they felt he was ready, though, I think chasing a championship, they could make that case for themselves in their own minds, just thinking, well, if we finish ahead of Shared Belief, we'll...
That's true.
But Shared Belief at that point, assuming he continues doing well, would have a win against Older in the Pacific Classic and potentially a win against Older in the Awesome again. Yeah. And, it's very interesting. And California Chrome hasn't even stepped out of his age group yet.
Right. So I think there's, you know, some other things at stake here, just in the fact that, okay, it's great to have him back at the races. We're going to get a tightener here. We're going to go to the Classic. You know, I think they might want to think about winning on Saturday to get some bandwagon back.
And you talk about odds. It will be fun to see where the betting public goes as far as California Chrome and how excited they get about him. I agree with you. I think this horse will float down to a chalky price. But then what do they do with Bayern? Yeah. Because Bayern, I think, is absolutely one of the best 3-year-olds of the season. But he threw in that clunker in the Travers. Right. Now, gets to go back to 1 1/8 from 1 1/4, but I said it yesterday. 1 1/8 at Monmouth is a lot different than 1 1/8 anywhere else.
Oh, without a doubt. No, there's no doubt about it. And, you know, Bayern is the type, to me, that absolutely has to have things his own way. Yeah. And if he doesn't, he's going to fold badly. We saw it in the Travers. It's just really odd that he's here. I don't know if they're just... They realize he's not a 1 1/4 Breeders' Cup Classic horse, so let's go for $1 million and see what we can come up with. And you know what? Honestly, Seth, if he wins this race and wins the Breeders' Cup Classic, maybe he's 3-year-old champion. It's not absolutely unheard of, to be honest with you. So maybe they're just going for broke, and he's doing well right now. But it's a weird spot. And along the lines Seth mentioned about the odds too, you have to remember there are going to be a lot of, I'll say, first-timers at the track on Saturday that are probably just betting the Kentucky and Derby winner who's here, who's very randomly in Bensalem, Pennsylvania from California. So I really think this horse would be, 1 to 2 probably or so, and therefore you're going to get big prices on everyone else. It was a lot like the Haskell, if you remember. Untappable was about 6 to 5. Bayern was like 7 to 1 in there, and at the end he drifted down to 9 to 2. You're probably going to see the same type of thing in here. The second choice might be 5, 6 to 1 in this race. So.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. They have a good card down there at Parks on Saturday, and certainly, again, we'll continue talking about it as the week goes along. All right, we'll shift our attention now to Wednesday afternoon and racing. Again, Brian's going to take a look at Belmont a little later on. I'm going to kick things off with Delaware Park, an 8-race card at Delaware.
Yeah, we're going to start at 1:15 here in the opener, and the first is for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. It's a non-winners of 3 lifetime. The claiming tag 5,000. They're going a 2-turn mile on the main track.
I have a 2, 3, 5, and 6. The number 2 is Lily's Peak. I think this horse is the one to beat if able to repeat that last effort. You look at this field, and this number-wise, this is not a particularly strong field, but the number that Lily's Peak tossed last time is absolutely a number that has an edge on this bunch. Now, that was a non-2 7,500 claimer. I've said it before, a lot of times horses move from one condition to the next. They need a start or two, but this is kind of these are always intriguing handicapping puzzles to me because the horse is going up a condition but moving down price-wise. So I still think it's maybe a little bit tougher on the condition, but it's more of a lateral move than anything else. So again, I think this horse off of the last one, and regardless of the move, I think it's probably a field this horse can fit in very nicely. So Lily's Peak in the top spot, Arctic Bird in the second spot for me, just in some pretty good form off of the last 2 tries. Those were both for the 5,000 tag the last time for this N3L condition. We're in a well-beaten second, but was clear of the third place horse. The third place horse was Sparkling Soul, one that I have in my mix down in the 4th spot. In between Arctic Bird and Sparkling Soul, however, I put Ginanilla, the number 5 horse, just on the improving numbers over the past 3. The finishing positions, nothing to write home about. But again, I think overall this is a pretty weak field. So just looking at those numbers that are improving over the past few starts for Ginanilla, not going to surprise me if this horse gets up in the mix today. Delaware's opener 2, 3, 5, and 6.
Yeah, I'm just looking here, Seth, and Lily's Peak is 2 for 4 lifetime and comes off a rousing win. A lot of these are in the 2 for 20 kind of range, and it's not often you get upside in a level like this.
Yeah.
So she does look pretty strong. On to the second here. We've got fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. It's a non-winners of 2 lifetime. The tag's 5,000. They're sprinting 6 furlongs on the main track.
5, 6, 1, and 2. The number 5 is Imperial Devil, and this is one of those you don't quite know which way to go. This horse debuted back June 21st, won the career debut. You always like to see that. Then had a little bit of a layoff for most of the summer, came back at a 10,000 N2 and threw it an absolute dud. And I will say, I went back and watched the race because I wanted to see the trouble line. The trouble line says stumbled start. The horse did stumble, but then kind of got right up in the thick of things. Don't look at that trouble line as being significant. I just think the horse got up into the thick of things almost immediately with a minor stumble. And more significantly, I think the stumble forced this horse wide. And that, to me, was maybe more the story here, because the horse was kind of up in the thick of things and then faded, but after a wide trip. Now, the fade shouldn't have been that bad, but this is a horse that last time was at the 10 level, last time going 2 turns. So I think moving down to the 5,000 level and cutting back to a sprint, we may be moving more closer to the comfort zone that we saw in the career debut. So I'll use Imperial Devil on top, but again, a little bit of trepidation. Second spot, the number 6, St. Anna Karina. Goes out for Potent Connections, Jamie Ness, Midwest Thoroughbreds, and Michael Ritvo. Michael Ritvo, again, we talked about him over the past few days. He's moved north, had started his career down in Florida, got off to a pretty good start as an apprentice down there, and has now moved up to the northeast. And again, assuming, and I think it's a very safe assumption, moved up here so he can make the most out of that apprentice allowance and ride pretty much 7 days a week. Yesterday, or was it Monday? One of the days he was over at Philly. He raced over at Laurel as well recently. So he's able to race, as I say, pretty much 7 days a week if he chooses to, and he's doing pretty well because he won it with his first at Laurel the other day, and he won with his first ever start at Philly the other day as well. So, I think these are potent connections. I think you have some numbers here that fit very well with this bunch. The concern here is the layoff since March. But again, it is Jamie Ness. Have to figure this horse will be ready. And then the third spot, I'll go with the number 1, Forest Diva. Tossed in a pretty good number in a third place finish last time. And if that signals some good form right now, that one should get up in the hunt as well. Race number 2, 5, 6, 1, and 2.
All right, on to the third. Fillies and mares again, 3-year-olds and up. It's a non-winners of 3 lifetime. The claiming price $5,000. And again, we're going 6 furlongs on the main track.
2, 6, 3, and 5. The number 2 is Farewell Kiss. And I bounced back and forth on where to go here with my top 3. My top 2 are taking some significant class relief. The horse I have in third comes off a really good win last time. So I was kind of, as I say, bouncing back and forth. But I wound up on Farewell Kiss with, again, the potent connections in Ness, Midwest, and Michael Ritvo. You also have a class drop here and a very significant class drop. But as we say a lot of times, you can go either way with that. The class drop can either mean this horse is eligible to get the wake up, or there's a fire sale sign on this one. But a beaten favorite last time at the 15B level off a summertime layoff. Fourth in a field of 7, well beaten fourth, but showed some early punch. So it seems like this horse is in some pretty good form. And I'm looking at this more as, let's find a winning spot for this horse. So I have Farewell Kiss on top. Similar concerns and positives looking at number 6, Thrill Show. Claimed for 10 last time, claimed out of the barn of Jamie Ness. Moves into a high percentage barn, however, and on the claim for 10, comes back for 5. So that, to me, is maybe a little bit more of a concern. Right off the claim, the drop, you have to scratch your head a little bit. But again, it's just, you look at the back numbers for this horse, and certainly will fit if ready. But again, there's some trepidation there. And as I said earlier, the number 3, Raising Passion, comes off of a nice win, claimed out of that win for a 5 tag, moves up a condition, however. So will this horse be able to repeat with the move to the N3L? Not going to surprise me if it does, because prior to that win last time, this horse was racing against significantly better. This was a big class drop down to the 5 level last time, so may have found a home down here. So really, I can make a pretty good case for any of my top 3 in here, but I have a 2, 6, 3, and 5.
And it looks like, Seth, that the Ness and the top barns are really interested in Ritvo with the 7-pound bug. I'm looking here, and we're going to get to the 4th in a second. Anthony Pecoraro, who's about 24% to me, puts him on too. So, they like that weight off. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and he's riding well.
Yeah, no doubt. And we'll get to the turf here in the 4th. We've got 3-year-olds and up. They've never won 2 races. The tag, 16,000. We're going a mile and a 16th on the turf course.
6, 8, 2, and 4. The number 6 is Keep It Pithy. Comes off of a nice second place finish last time in a little bit better company. 2 starts back, was in about this company, ran badly, but that was at Penn National on a soft turf course. Prior to that was over at Monmouth for 25, ran a good 3rd. So I think this horse, price-wise, is right in the comfort zone. Seems in some pretty good form, particularly if you draw a line through that effort on the soft turf 2 starts back. So we'll put Keep It Pithy on top. Second spot, the number 8, Kipling Boy. You look over the last 3 starts, buyer figures moving in the right direction. Now, last 3 starts goes back to October of 2013. The last 2, 14th of August, 1st of September. So buyer figures moving in the right direction. 3rd start back of the season. Last time out, finished just behind Keep It Pithy. I think Kipling Boy is also going to be a contender. And then the number 2, Ridley Creek Road. Just get some class relief in here that I think could provide a little bit of a wake-up. Has some numbers that I think might have to step up from a little, but they're numbers that I think are good enough when you compare to some of the rest of the field. And again, it's just on the class relief off a little bit of a layoff. I think this one could be kind of interesting at the 6-1 morning line. In the 4th, 6, 8, 2, and 4.
All right, that's going to bring us to our first break on the Handicappers Report. We've got the first 4 down at Delaware Park. When we come back, Seth's going to rattle off the last 4. Stay tuned.
I'm Steve Bick.
And I'm Seth Merrill.
Together, we're Loose on the Lead on Capital OTB, Sundays at 10 a.m. Why should they watch, Seth?
Sit down on Sunday, have a bagel, get some great racing conversation.
Cream cheese only, no jelly. Sundays, 10 a.m., Loose on the Lead, Capital OTB.
The Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back. That's right. The 2014 Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back, and it's your chance to win thousands in cash and prizes, and a seat at the 2015 Handicapping Championship in Las Vegas. This month's contest is the Belmont Bet Fest on October 4th. So sign up today, online at capitalotb.com, or stop in at the Clubhouse Racebook. Each morning on the OTB TV network, you get the very best in horse racing programming. Weekdays begin with the Handicappers Report, where professional handicappers share their selections and analysis of the day's racing. Followed by Racing Across America, a daily conversation with racing personalities from around the country. Saturdays include Down the Stretch, where Mark Casano speaks with the biggest names in racing. And Sunday mornings, it's Loose on the Lead, where Steve Bick and I offer news and a unique lineup of weekly guests. All here on the OTB TV network.
Face it, most horse racing websites are just too much clutter, too much to navigate through. Next time, log on to capitalotb.com. Our newly designed website is easier than ever to use, with all the information the professional horse player needs. capitalotb.com.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report. I'm Brian Nadeau. Seth Merrill's gotten the first 4 at Delaware Park, and he's going to handle the last 4 here as we get to the 5th. We've got maiden, fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. The tag is 5,000 sprinting 6 furlongs on the main track.
And this is not a particularly attractive field. This is one of those races where potentially a little bit of anything could happen because, this is a weak field. My top pick, one of those horses I hate to use, a 14-time loser, let's say. This is a maiden after 14 career starts. Now, 3 seconds and 3/3, and 3 of those in the money finishes have happened in the last 4 times in the last 5 starts. So a horse that potentially is, getting a little bit better with some experience, but nothing to write home about. So I have this horse on top, but can't use it with much confidence. But it may be one of those, and it happens. Horse is even money on the morning line, so the morning line odds maker, thinking just what I am, may have finally found a field that this horse can beat. So, our lucky lady on top, but not with a lot of confidence. Second spot, I tell the jokes here, the number 2 horse, 8-5 on the morning line. Leaves from the rail, has some early speed, clearly will be sent, and maybe a catch me if you can kind of a situation. And, in a relatively weak field, may be tough for them to reel this horse in. Third spot, 20-1 on the morning line. Miss Al Capote, just off the last effort, seems to perhaps indicate that this horse is kind of moving in the right direction. You never know with these, though, because you look at these and you have some 0 buyer figures, and all of a sudden, boom, they throw in a 20, and then they come right back with a 0. You can see that with a horse like 6 Ring Sign. So you just don't quite know. But off of that last race and looking at the rest of the field, I'll take a little shot and put Miss Al Capote in the mix as well. Delaware's 5th, 8-2-5 in the 1A.
They all have to win sometime,
yeah,
right? That's our motto in the 5th. We'll get back to the turf for the 6th here. We've got a starter allowance. It's 3-year-olds and up that have started for a claiming price or $20,000 or less this year, or have not won 4 races. They're going a 1.70 miles on the Delaware Park turf course.
Interesting, and I didn't quite know what to do here with my top picks. 7, 11, 3, and 4. I used Raging Doust on top, but this is a race on the turf. I think Raging Doust might have a little bit of a class edge on these. Last time out, ran 4th in a field of 6 up at Saratoga, ran in a couple of graded stakes just prior to that at Monmouth, but they were on the dirt. This horse has had only 1 turf start in the career, not showing on the page. And it's one of those where I wonder, hey, let's enter the horse in here and hope it comes off. But Delaware, as evidenced by Thunder Lord, the number 10 horse, one of those tracks where you can enter for main track only and be put in the body of the field. So I'm not quite sure what the upside of that thinking would be. So I'm assuming they were, given that, I'm assuming they were thinking we're going to try the turf, and there is a class edge, but there is a question mark here. I'm using it on top on the class factor. Second spot, the number 11, Aryan Silver, just looking for this horse to potentially speed pop the field, looking around at the rest of the field. I'm not sure there's anyone else who is going to go with Aryan Silver. Now, we'll have to find some good position early from this outside post position, but I do think this horse, with plenty of speed, probably should be able to do that going into the first turn. Third spot, the number 3, Hi Ho Bambino, has some back numbers that I think are good enough to be interesting here. Fourth start back off a little bit of a layoff. Last couple of starts, not much, but the comeback effort was pretty good. We'll look for this horse to, as I say, maybe bounce back to some better numbers, and if so, could be up in the hunt also. In the sixth, 7, 11, 3, and 4.
Yeah, and I'm using Raging Dallas at 12-1 too, because that's a huge price if you can get that on a horse that's showing. River Rock's valid. It's my lucky day in his last 3 races, and he's a grade 3 winner as it is. Class edge on these for sure. To the 7th at Delaware, we've got 3-year-olds and upwards that have never won 2 races. The tag, 15,000, and they're going 6 furlongs on the main track.
2, 6, 1, and 5. The number 2 is Ella's Top Cat. Ella's Top Cat gets a little bit of class relief off the past couple of starts. Also shows some speed. Last time out was in a turf to dirt kind of a situation off a little bit of a layoff, and got some class relief there. Showed some nice speed early before finishing 4th. Another step down the claiming ladder. That speed may be a little bit more potent in the second start back off of that little bit of a summertime layoff. Ella's Top Cat on top. Number 6, Fly Private in the second spot. Ran well at this 20,000 level, 2 back. Then they got a little bit ambitious last time, but I think could be moving back into the comfort zone today. And then the number 1, Exclusively Greek, takes a slight drop class-wise. Last time was in an allowance event at Charlestown. Prior to that was at the 20 level here at Delaware. Goes for 15 today and has some back numbers. So on the class move, I think Exclusively Greek is interesting also. 7, 2, 6, 1, and 5.
All right, brings us to the finale at Delaware Park, the 8th race, Arabian Breds. And then Seth has been talking about this race since he walked through the door here. We've got fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. It's a non-winners of 2 lifetime. The tag's 20,000. The Arabian Breds are sprinting 6 on the main track. Can't
wait for the Arabian Breds. And I went down to Delaware a few years ago and was watching races, and lo and behold, the last race of the day was an Arabian race. And it was funny. And you can imagine by looking at the times, like the special P here on top, 6 furlongs and 1:21. As you watch the race, you just sense, man, it's like slow motion.
Yeah, something's different. Yeah, something's not right here.
It's very funny. You get that feeling, but I enjoy it. Florida in the wintertime, I'll play the dogs. If they got the betting windows open, I'll take a shot. This one, 1, 6, 5, and 3. I do have special P on top. I like the cutback off the last couple of starts, and there was a win and a close-up second place finish. I think this horse will be the favorite and the one to beat when the betting is all said and done. And on the cutback, should run well. Second spot, the number 6, Love to Dance. Class relief in here off a stakes race last time, getting back to the comfort zone. Similar situation with Treasured Moments on the class relief coming out of the stakes try last time. In the Delaware 8, 1, 6, 5, and 3.
All right, that will bring us to our second break on the Handicappers Report. When we come back, we'll swap roles. I'll get into Belmont Park. Stay tuned.
I'm Seth Merrill. Join me weekdays at 10 for Racing Across America. We'll look at important races from around the country, get insight from top handicappers and analysts, and preview the upcoming week in racing. That's Racing Across America, weekdays at 10, right here on the OTB TV network.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. With a newly designed and engineered internet wagering platform, enhanced video streaming, additional funding options, and 3 new individual wagering opportunities, CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. Combine that with our all-new mobile website. You have 2 of the most powerful, innovative, and advanced wagering platforms available today. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
I got it. Watch me. I got it. Hey! I got something that makes me want to shout. I got something that tells me what it's all about. I got a move that tells me what to do. If you don't, brothers and sisters, then you won't know what it's all about.
I'm Mark Casano. Join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch. We'll inform, analyze, and welcome in the biggest names in racing. So join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch, right here on the OTB television network.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report on this Wednesday morning. We're taking a look at some action for Wednesday afternoon. I just took a look at Delaware. Brian is now going to shift our attention over to Belmont Park. Their opener today, optional claiming event, 62,500 tags, non-winners of 2 lifetime. The condition, these are fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. They're on the grass at a mile.
Yeah, 6-5-1 and a pretty chalky opener, Seth. Number 6, Kenza Darjan for Chad Brown and Martin Schwartz. Looked really good, really impressive, beating a deep and competitive field at Saratoga in what was her U.S. debut off a few Group 2 and 3 placings in France. And she's just too good for these. If there's one maybe a little bit of a white flag, it's that she isn't in a stakes race. They had the Sands Point last weekend, but Chad ran 2 in there. They ran 1-2. You know, maybe she's eyeing the Queen Elizabeth at Keeneland on October 10th, I believe, maybe the 11th. Martin Schwartz, you know, the Gorilla, Lady of Venice, Stace Lita, Kenza Dargent looks to follow in their footsteps, and at a odds on maybe literally 1-5 in here. She's too good. Underneath the 5, Wellington's Appeal, who stretches out off some turf sprints, and there's just a little chance that she gets loose in here and maybe sets the pace at a big price. I think she'll be bigger than 5-1 for sure. So maybe you turn a $2.80 winner into a 7-1 exacta or something with Wellington's Appeal underneath. She's never run long on the turf, but you know she's by half hours. Who's a miler on his best day. So I don't necessarily think this is out of her scope. And underneath the 1, Rubindi, Chad's other horse. I actually saw Chad at dinner last night at Jacob and Anthony, so make that what you will. But maybe he's traveling down to Belmont this morning. Rubindi tries the turf for the first time, not overly bred for it. But Chad's 30% first turf, so you've got to think from a rail-saving draw with Javier Castellano aboard. She'll figure in here. 6-5-1 and a very chalky opener to start the pick 5.
And I don't know if a lot of people realize that, but if you're bouncing around town up in Saratoga, even this time of year, with the training track now open as long as it is, there are a lot of trainers that have homes up here and spend a lot of time up here in what is the Saratoga off-season.
Yeah, a lot of guys are doing the Wednesday, Sunday shift at Belmont, coming back up here, overseeing works and things like that on Monday, Tuesday, and going back. And, you know, if they have a light day, they might stay 2 or 3 or 4 days. So
and I'm guessing right. The training track probably has at least another month or so.
I think November 15th is, the tentative closing date, if weather permitting. So there's no doubt about it. And I know Steve Asmussen and a few other prominent barns are going to use the training track for their Breeders' Cup horses. Untappable and Tapiture are 2 horses that are going to be up here as they prep for the Breeders' Cup. So, it's a neat time to get over there. The crowd's obviously down, and see some serious horses work towards the Breeders' Cup and maybe a couple championships.
Yeah, as I say, a lot of people may not be familiar with that, but the training track open now from April until, as you say, November, and a lot of the trainers bouncing around town very regularly. All right, second race at Belmont this afternoon. Maiden claiming event. Claiming tags $20,000. 3-year-olds and up the age. 6 furlongs the trip.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to give you about a $4.30 double to lead off the Belmont card. 9-3-1 for here. Artemis Paperboy for David Jacobson. Second off the claim. Drops from 35 into 20. And folks, you really can't find a slower field for maiden claiming 20 in here. Artemis Paperboy, draws a nice attack post. Second off the claim for Jacobson. He added blinkers last time. Caught a runaway winner in America's Guest, And Artemis Paperboy just looks like a better horse for expert claiming trainer and a guy that's not afraid to lose horses by dropping them down, and that's really what you look at with Artemis Paperboy. Jacobson off to a white-hot start at the meet. He's 6 for 20. You know what? He's probably going to be 6 to 5 on the board, and he's going to key a $4.30 double, but so be it. If he wins, we'll have him in the pick 5 and to start the early pick 4. Underneath, what I'm going to do is take a little shot underneath with Mach 7, the 3, who's a big price. And again, I mentioned it in the opener. Maybe we can turn 280 into 17. Maybe we can turn 440 into 35 here. Because if you look at Mach 7, he's been doing the turf thing. He's only sprinted once on the main track since May. And that effort was not all that bad. Right here at Belmont Park, he ran a 48 buyer, if that's your thing. Broke dead last from the rail in a 10-horse field. But in a very fast race for the level. So Mach 7 underneath at a big price. Maybe he'll spice up your exacta for Joe Parker, who's 1 for 63 on the year. Third spot, number 1, Invasion Point, who on paper is the main danger to Artemis Paperboy. Blinks come off, tricky rail draw for 6 furlongs. Hasn't been 6 since his debut when he ran against special weights, when he was 6 to 1 against Grand the Man that day. So he's the most likely danger, but I'm not really too interested in playing a $9 exacta. So I'll try to break it up and go 9-3-1 as we kick off the early pick 4 in the second race.
Race number 3 this afternoon. It is a $40,000 conditional claimer. Non-winners of 2 lifetime. The condition, fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. They're on the grass at 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah, a little bit of a stab here. 4-2-3 for me. Number 4, Saratoga Karaoke. And I don't like taking deep closers on the turf, but I'm seeing a lot of speed in here. And Carl Domino also adds blinkers to this filly, which I like. It should sharpen her up a little bit. Put her in the race a little bit more, and I think that'll bode well. And while she's only 1 for 13 lifetime, that one win did come over the course and distance back in May. So I think there's a little bit of a hidden form here. She's been running against better in her last 3 starts since that maiden win. Hasn't been disgraced in her 3 starts against winners. And from hopefully not out the back like she's been doing, hopefully from a mid-pack stalking trip, under Irad Ortiz, I think Saratoga Karaoke can, maybe get us a $10 winner on top. Underneath, I went number 2, Stage Name, who adds blinkers for Pat Reynolds off a June layoff. Her 2 turf races have been pretty good, and they are markedly better than her dirt form. She's never sprinted on the turf. She's gone the mile here at Belmont in both of her starts. So now she's going to get on the inner and sprint 6. And I think the blinkers will really have her sharp in here. Maybe your inside speed. I'm not sure if she can last. We'll look for Stage Name to run well. And underneath the 3, That's the Boss for John Toscano and Taylor Rice at 1 for 20 with 6 slices. And if you know me, if you've watched me on the Handicappers Report, these are not my plays at 1 for 20 with 6 slices underneath at 5 to 2. Maybe on form, on paper, she's the best, but we'll plan on her being 1 for 21 when they exit this spot today. 4-2-3 in the third for me at Belmont.
4th race looks like a fun little maiden special weight event for New York bred 2-year-old fillies. Again, they're on the grass at 6 furlongs.
Yeah, Seth, not only is it fun, it looks pretty loaded in here, and you might want to tab the also-rans in here because this has the makings of a really key race. I've got it 9-4-1, probably chalking out a little bit, but Hot Like Hepburn for Linda Rice in her debut. This filly cost $230,000 as a 2-year-old in training purchase. She goes to Lady Sheila Stable, who owns La Verdad, top sprinter for Linda. Linda's not necessarily known as a first-out trainer. She's down to 7%, but if you've been in this game long enough, she was potent back in the day, back in the mid to late 90s. So Hot Like Hepburn from a pretty nice attack post. I got to believe this filly can run. If you digging even a little deeper, when you name a horse like that, sometimes that means they can really run. So I'm thinking Hot Like Hepburn comes out firing today. I like to see Cornelia Velasquez, who's Linda's pretty much her main rider, jump aboard. And the other reason I like the 9 so much is that the 4 for Chad Brown, RY Squadron, who's 2-1 on the line. This is a half to Voodoo. The Dam was a half to Voodoo, who was a top New York bred dirt sprinter, though, I believe. Made over 600, earned over 600 grand. As good as Chad is, and we all know, Chad is on his way, if he's not there already, at becoming one of the top 2 or 3 trainers in all of racing. He's not that sharp getting horses, sprinting in their debut. So from an inside draw, I'm going to think just maybe RY Squadron might need one, and at a short price, I'm going to try to beat her. Daughter of Stormy Atlantic. Maybe she wants a little farther than the 6 as well. Underneath the 1, Stolen Victory for Gary Contessa. And the hedge, the rail, is not a bargain at all for a young 2-year-old making her first start. But she shows 2 wicked 3 furlong bullet works. So if nothing else, I would think she's going to break running and lead these as far as they can go. Gary's picked it up a little bit with his first-time starters over the last few years. So expect Stolen Victory, if nothing else, to show some speed. The 3, Pink Floyd Live, a pretty neat name. This is a daughter. The dam was a daughter of Dancing Renee. This is a half to Risky Rachel. Both very talented, multiple stakes winning New York breds. You look at the 6, Broccolini. The dam is a half to Swell, who I'm going to mention tomorrow on the show. A really talented New York bred turf sprinter. So keep an eye on the also-rans in here today. 9-4-1, though, for me is my top 3.
Yeah, you got to worry about, speaking of names and how they can play into it, you got to worry about the distance with Pink Floyd Live. Might hit the wall at some point.
Oh, hey! I think we need to go to a break now, don't we?
Actually, there's one more race. You got to live.
It took him about 2 minutes to craft that, ladies and gentlemen.
Tip your waitresses, folks. All right, yeah. 5th race today. Wow. $20,000 claimer, 3-year-olds and up. They will go a mile and a 16.
I thought that was only in my ear, but he did say that out loud, actually. Boy, oh boy. 6-8-2 for me, and as we move on to the 5th, mercifully, Love to Run off a complete no-show at Saratoga. Against Better, but he broke really slowly that day from the rail. Flash speed, dueled on the inside, took all the worst of it. Predictably dropped back behind Jones Choice, who was a good-looking winner that day for David Jacobson, I believe. So Love to Run, getting back to Belmont, where he's 3 for 9 lifetime. He's 0 for 10 everywhere else. I'm thinking he's the loose speed here today, and if not, he just draws the perfect attack post. Love to Run for John Kimmel, who's quietly had a pretty nice year. I'm going to try to get him to the wire first. It's nice to see Junior Alvarado stick around as well. Underneath the 8, Chairman Now. I'm kind of looking for a little speed play exacta here. Chairman Now exits a slew of 2-turn races where he was on or near the lead. He won't be on the lead today, cutting back to a 1-turn mile. But he might get a 2-over stalking, pressing trip, and if that's the case, just maybe we can get a 6-8 to the hoop for the exacta. Underneath, we'll try the 2, MJ Plus, who's your morning line favorite. For David Jacobson, plummeting from a non-winner as a 1 in for a $20,000 tag. And I mentioned David's not afraid to lose a horse to get a win. But you know what? From an inside draw, going a 1-turn mile, he's 0 for 6 going a mile. I think we'll make MJ Plus prove it to me today. 6-8-2 as we get to the end of the pick 5 and the early pick 4 as well.
All right, and that also brings us to our last break for the morning. We'll come back and look at the rest of the Belmont card right after this. Stay tuned.
Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
The Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back. That's right. The 2014 Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back, and it's your chance to win thousands in cash and prizes, and a seat at the 2015 Handicapping Championship in Las Vegas. This month's contest is the Belmont Bet Fest on October 4th. So sign up today, online at CapitalOTB.com or stop in at the Clubhouse Racebook.
Face it, most horse racing websites are just too much clutter, too much to navigate through. Next time, log on to CapitalOTB.com. Our newly designed website is easier than ever to use, with all the information the professional horse player needs. CapitalOTB.com.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, and amazing Vegas-style atmosphere. The Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Welcome back. We will continue our look at Belmont with race number 6. It's a starter allowance at the $50,000 level, 3-year-olds and up. Again on the grass, this time 8.5 furlongs.
Yeah, it took 6 races, but I'll give you a horse that hopefully will pay over $10. 291 for me. Number 2, Smoky Brown for John Toscano. Adds Lasix for the first time off a little mini layoff at Saratoga. You know, has been running for the 50 tag, $40,000 starter allowance. Kind of been middling a little bit. Mid-pack finishes, a couple decent seconds, and then 7th at Saratoga. But the Lasix goes on today. He's faced some good horses. You look back, Cashmere Cat would be about 7-5 in this field. I like that Irad Ortiz has been lured to ride Smoky Brown from an inside stalking trip with the Lasix on. I'm thinking he wakes up, and frankly, folks, he's really not all that slower than anyone else on paper. So maybe 10's a little ambitious. You might get 6 or 8 to 1 though. Underneath the 9, Pep the Champ for Tony D. Big turf race at Saratoga with a sharp number. When third, was actually beating my top pick today. But the obvious issue is the post. If you look at the diagram in your racing form, you're going to see that dog leg. Star is going to leave Pep the Champ really wide, and I'm not sure if, at a short price, 3-1 or so, I want to take that with a wide trip in tow. We'll try to beat him on top underneath the 1, Stableford for third. For Phil Serpy, who I'm going to say probably since about the 2nd or 3rd week at Saratoga has been on an absolute tear. He's kept it going at Belmont. He's 2 for 6 early with a couple seconds thrown in there. First off the claim, Phil's 21%. We go from Bobby Robato, and Bobby's a good guy, no disrespect. He's not as good as Phil Serpy. Stableford from saving all the ground off some, decent races at Belmont and Saratoga against better. I'm thinking it's going to hit pretty hard in here. We'll go 291 in the 6 for me at Belmont.
7th this afternoon. It is a state-bred allowance event. Non-winners are one other than for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, going 6.
And I've got it 6, 7, 8. Number 6, Miss Sylvia A. One of my bigger plays of the day off the layoff for Michelle Nevin. She hasn't been out since May 31st in a stakes race when Isabel just forgot to stop and freaked on a day when the track was as speedy as I think I've seen it in a long time. Captain Sirius, I think, shaded 121 that day, winning the Mike Lee. Miss Sylvia A is a versatile horse. I think she's going to be fresh off the layoff, going to add some, should be value. We'll put her on top underneath 7, Blithely for Mark Hennard. Mark was snake bitten a little bit at Saratoga, but had a lot of horses run well underneath, and this is one of them off a long layoff. Was a fine second to Girl About Town, who's probably stakes bound pretty shortly. Blithely, to me, the one to beat off of second off the layoff, figures to improve, and Mark's 40%, 4 for 10, second off a long layoff like that. Underneath the 9, Manhattan Gin, the 8, My Girl Madison, who exits open company down at Monmouth Park, a fine second and an optional claimer, gets back to Statebreds here, draws a nice attack post, goes second off a layoff, but I'm just a little worried she's a filly that wants to show a lot of speed, and from a wide draw, that might be a little tough today. 6, 7, 8, and the 7th for me at Belmont.
Nice allowance event for race number 8 today. Allowance non-winners are one other than for New York bred 3-year-olds and up. They're going a mile on the grass.
Yeah, as a horse player now, guy, trip note, I had 3 horses pop up in this race, and I never liked that. So what I did was I used them all. 3, 8, 12 in that order. Number 3, Charity Range, you're going to see was, pretty far. Well, it was a few lengths behind the 8 Blue Pigeon, who will go favored here and definitely take some beating. But go back and watch the video that day. Charity Range had a nightmare trip. Couldn't have had a worse trip. checked early, checked late, often, shuffled back, lost all chance, still only beaten less than 6 lengths. Picks up Javier Castellano today. I would think he's going to save all the ground. Got some hidden form. So at a better price than number 8, Blue Pigeon, who's the horse to beat for Christophe Clement, but he's basically running the same race every time. So I'm going to try to beat him. He was another that had trouble that day. There's no doubt about it. Traffic inside in the stretch. A move forward makes him scary, but at 5-2, let's make him prove it. And if you want to bomb for your try, for your super, maybe even your exacta, Island Therapy, the 12, was a very good-looking maiden claiming winner last time. Going long, his 2 turf starts going long have been very good. Steps way up today. But there's upside here. He's got some sneaky good form in races that are better than they look on paper. He's going to be a monster price. Throw him underneath in your exacta, your try. 3-8-12 for me in the 8th at Belmont.
Yeah, and that's really disappointing when you have trip notes
and tough,
2 or 3 of your horses show up in the same race.
Yeah, and when you do that out of certain races, you pretty much, because these are a lot of these are like the circus traveling around. They only write so many races for their level. They're going to pop back up against each other. What are you going to do?
9th today is a state-bred maiden special weight event. These are 3-year-olds, again, New York breds, 3-year-olds and up, going 1 mile and a 16th on the grass.
Yeah, quickly we'll close it out 9-5-4. I'm going to give Tiger D another shot here. He failed miserably at 1-2, 3-5, in his New York and his state-bred debut off the huge second at Churchill Downs against Open Company. He draws wide here. I'm not really liking that, but he gets Joel Rosario. He just looks better than these on paper. It's a pretty modest field. I'm going to give him one more try at a short price. Underneath, maybe a little bit of a price here with Boston Strong for Sovereign Stable. Check this horse's race out last time. He's serious middle move into a wicked pace last time. Made first run, and he paid the price for it late behind a Clement closer in Thurgood. A little bit of an upside here for Boston Strong. Goes off the layoff. Only his 2nd time routing, 3rd career start. Underneath the 4, Talladega is probably your second choice in here. 2 nice turf races to open his career. I'm just not figuring if he can move forward today, though, off 2 basically the same races. Let's go 9-5-4 the finale at Belmont Park.
All right, that wraps up Belmont. A little earlier on, I took a look at Delaware Park. Don't forget, you can find the selections for the Handicappers Report every day on CapitalOTB.com. Also, don't forget, the month of September, the Bet 50, Get 50 promotion continues. If you sign up and become a new Capital Bets wagering account holder, as soon as you bet $50 into your account, Capital OTB puts $50 into your account. Also allows you to log on to CapitalOTBBet.com, our state-of-the-art wagering platform. Fun and easy to sit at home, fire up the computer, and wager all the tracks we offer, including the tracks you'll be able to watch on the network this afternoon. Plenty of racing action to enjoy from the comfort of your family room television. Kicking off with Belmont, moving on to Laurel, Delaware. Kentucky Downs, is it their last day or next to last day? Do you know?
I believe it's their next to last day.
I thought there was 2 more.
Yeah, I think there's 2 more, and that's a great, if you're not familiar with Kentucky Downs, what a great turf course and great betting races, deep wagering menus as well.
So Kentucky, Hoosier Park, Presque Isle, Penn National, Woodbine Thoroughbreds, Mountaineer, and then a little later on, Australia A, B, and C. And yeah, going back to Kentucky Downs, I talked a little bit about it yesterday because Gary West had a column on ESPN.com. And he is, for their 5-day meet, he's their paddock commentator, came up from Texas. But he threw a stat into the article I found amazing. The past 2 seasons at Kentucky Downs, if you bet the favorite in every race, 22% profit.
Wow,
which I think just shows how competitive you're getting favorites who are obviously 2-1 or 5-2 for that to happen.
Exactly, and you look at the races, 12, 13 horse fields on that rolling turf course. My good friend Joe Christofek was down there the past week doing some work, and he spoke really highly of it. So check it out if you haven't already. It's a great wagering menu, like Seth said, deep. Competitive field. So
and a couple more days left, today being one of them. All right, we'll wrap things up for the Handicappers Report for Wednesday morning. Seth Merrow, Brian Nadeau. Hopefully we gave you some good information, so enjoy the races this afternoon. Stay tuned. Up next, Racing Across America.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.